welcome to this live reading from Finders Reapers, a paranormal romantic comedy from the New Orleans Nocturnes, Book 4, by Carrie Pulkinen, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Don't worry, corpses can't feel pain. Jasmine Lee flashed her most comforting smile at the nauseated werewolf. Once the life force leaves the body, the synapses are kaput. You couldn't get on this dude's nerves if you wanted to. She paused, waiting for Jax to crack a smile, but tension rolled through the poor guy's body, and the look on his face said he was either about to blow chunks or bolt. Shifting her gaze to Trace, the other werewolf standing with them in the morgue, she grinned. He shook his head. Oh, come on. Shifters have no appreciation for morgue humor. She gestured to the metal bin against the wall. There's a trash can if you need it. Trace did his first time. A low growl rumbled in Trace's chest. At least that comment got a response. A chunk of his neck is missing. Jack swallowed hard and inched a little closer to the corpse covered in a sheet. How could he possibly not feel it when you shove his soul back into his mangled body? Jasmine sighed. Synapses kaput? Dead nerves? I thought I explained this already. Let's get it over with. Trace wiggled a finger toward the top of the sheet. If it's a dog bite like the coroner claims, we'll be on our way. If a shifter did this, we'll have a mess of trouble on our hands. As you wish, officer. When she grasped the sheet, she could practically feel Jax tensing. Seriously, you could have cracked a walnut between the dude's butt cheeks. Watching him out of the corner of her eye, she uncovered the top half of the corpse. The stiff was in his late 20s with short light brown hair, and though his skin held the ashy pallor of death, he looked like he might have had a tan in life. Jax's stomach heaved, but he kept his dinner down. Not bad for a first-timer. Naturally, the coroner doesn't know y'all exist, so he's calling it a dog bite. It happened on a sidewalk in the Garden District in the middle of the night, so no witnesses. Trace leaned closer to the body, holding his breath as he peered at the wound. Jasmine was all but nose-blind to the sense of death now, but Werewolf's heightened sense of smell made coming to the morgue a stomach-turning event for all of them. Those are teeth marks, but it's impossible to tell if a shifter did this or just an animal. We need to talk to him. She bowed formally. Jasmine Lee, necromancer extraordinaire, at your service. There's no such thing as too dead when it comes to me. Did you know there's never been a soul I couldn't call back from across the bridge? She paused and tilted her head. Let me clarify. There's never been a soul I couldn't grab that didn't make a deal with the devil before they died. If Satan owns them, no one can call them back, so those people don't really count. Those were the ones she had to catch before that damn meddling, unfairly hot reaper snatched them away and ferried them off to the underworld. He'd ripped one too many souls from her grasp, making a mockery of her in front of her employers, and she would never forgive him for that. Trace cleared his throat. Right. Focus, Jazz. She shook her arms, loosening herself up to make the connection with the other side. Y'all ready for this? As we'll ever be, Jax said through clenched teeth. Jasmine took a deep breath, opening her channel to the spirit world. Her chest warmed, a sensation not unlike heartburn tightening beneath her breastbone, but instead of the burning, fizzing feeling reaching upward like she'd eaten a pound of extra spicy crawfish, it descended into her stomach, filling her core with warm, effervescent magic. Placing her hand on the dead guy's forehead, she absorbed his essence and shuffled through the energy of the spirit world, searching for his soul. Oh, this is too easy. He hasn't even crossed the bridge yet. In her mind, she reached out, clutching the energy that matched the body and shoving it into the corpse. There was no gentle way to do this. She tried delicately placing the soul on top of the body, allowing it to seep in slowly in the hope of minimizing the shock for her patients. It never worked. The only way to fuse a soul with a corpse was to shove it in there like an angry housewife stuffing a turkey while her mother-in-law stood behind her, criticizing her every move. With the spirit firmly planted inside the body, she stepped back and waited. This was the exciting part. First, the eyes moved beneath the lids like he was dreaming. Then they flew open as he attempted to suck in his first breath of air since he died. Of course, the lungs didn't work anymore, and he was dead, so he had no need for oxygen. But the body responded, mimicking the movements of breathing. The dead guy lay there, staring at the ceiling and blinking. Jasmine followed his gaze to find plain white ceiling tiles and plastic rectangular panels covering fluorescent lights. What a drab thing for a stiff to see on his first reanimation. Maybe she could convince the coroner to let her commission an artist to paint a mural on the ceiling. Or maybe she could hang a sign like The Good Place that read, "Welcome! Everything's fine!" Except everything wasn't fine, because the deceased would go back to being dead as soon as whoever was using her services got the information they needed. The stiff lifted an arm, pressing it against his neck wound as he attempted to sit up. Jasmine placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Probably best if you stay down, buddy. I'm not sure your head'll stay attached if you move. One eye rolled toward Jasmine before the other caught up. Dead bodies were weird like that. It took time for a spirit to gain the ability to move a corpse convincingly, and this guy wouldn't be sticking around long enough to master it. What happened? An icky, sloshing sound came from the wound when he spoke, and Jax gagged. Jasmine held in a laugh as the big bad werewolf turned green, eyeing the trash can like his last meal was about to make a reappearance. It was a dead body, for goodness sake. It was going to make noises. These guys hunted in their wolf forms, using their mouths to tear apart the flesh of whatever poor animal they caught for dinner, yet they freaked out at the sight of a talking corpse. Sheesh. We were hoping you could tell us what happened. She moved closer so he could see her without turning his head too far. You were attacked and you died. Do you remember anything? I couldn't find the light, Panic laced his words. I've been roaming around the streets, but no one can see me. Aren't I supposed to go to heaven now? You're supposed to go somewhere, but that's not for us to decide. If you can't cross the bridge on your own, I'm sure a Reaper will be along soon to show you the way. There were 3 reasons a ghost might hang around in the ether, the metaphysical space between the earthly realm and the underworld. Some simply got lost and couldn't find their way. If that were the case for this guy, Asher, the sexiest Sin Reaper whom Jasmine hated, would find him and whisk him away. Others had misbehaved in life, and rather than being tortured in hell, their spirits were forced to roam the earth as punishment. The last bunch had unfinished business with the living. They'd hang around until their murder was solved, or they got their revenge, or made peace with whomever they were at odds with, whatever it took. Jasmine had no way of knowing this dude's fate, so all she could do was promise him he'd get what was coming to him when the time was right. It wouldn't have surprised her if the Reaper showed up that instant, snatching the soul away before the werewolves got the information they needed, not saying a word to her when he did it. That was typical Asher style ever since the incident, the thing that happened between them that she refused to think about anymore. They used to be friends. Good friends. She'd thought their friendship was turning into something more until he freaked out and... She clenched her teeth. Memory Lane was a dead-end street she did not need to go skipping down right now. Don't worry, buddy. It'll all work out. Now, what do you remember about your death? What attacked you? Was it a wolf? No baiting the witness, Trace grumbled. Jasmine rolled her eyes. This isn't a courtroom. Sometimes the dead need a little help remembering. It was my girlfriend's new Rottweiler. She got it a few days after she dumped me. The stiff turned his head toward Jasmine, and his bones crunched, making yellow-tinged goo leak from the gash in his neck. Oh, hell. Jax lunged for the trash can and heaved. Jasmine shook her head. Wimp. You're sure it was a Rottweiler? Yeah, we'd broken up a week before. I was sneaking around to make sure she hadn't hooked up with anyone else. When I opened the gate, the dog came barreling toward me and latched onto my neck. I fell backward, and I guess I hit my head. That's all I remember. She looked at Trace. Got what you needed? Yeah. Thanks, Jasmine. You know where to send the bill. He nodded and turned to Jax, who stood doubled over the trash can. Don't let him turn around. This is the icky part. Jasmine waited until Trace put his hand on Jax's back, and she focused her energy on the soul inside the corpse. Thanks for your help, buddy. I'm going to send you back to the ether now. What's going to happen to me? His voice trembled, though she couldn't tell if it was from fear or because he was decaying. Where will I go? Like I said, if you can't find the light, look for the Reaper. He's a tall, blonde guy. Fair skin, otherworldly hotness. You can't miss him. Otherwise, just hang out. You're dead now, so no more pain. That's a bonus, right? He started to speak again, so Jasmine placed her hand on his forehead and yanked the soul from his body. The corpse seized, the torso shaking and the limbs flailing like it was given an electric shock, while the gentle buzzing of magic in Jasmine's core turned to a sharp zap of pain. The moment the spirit was free of the body, she pushed it out of the room. The sensation in her abdomen dissipated, and thus ended the semi-lifelike state of the corpse had endured. The dude lay still as a corpse. My job here is done. Jasmine arranged the limbs onto the tray like they'd been before, covered the dead guy's head, and slid the locker shut. Thanks for visiting the meat library, boys. Want to go grab a drink? She took off her lab coat and washed her hands. Jax's face contorted like he was about to be sick again. After what I just saw? No thanks. Gotta get home to Sophie. Trace opened the door. Maybe next time. Sure. Yeah, no problem. Jasmine waved as they shot out of the morgue faster than a couple of vampires who just drained a caffeine addict. With a sigh, she cleaned up the mess, checking the handle on the locker she'd closed to be sure it was secure. Technically, she was nothing more than a research assistant at the morgue. Only the other supes and the higher-ups in the police force knew about her side gig as a necromancer, and she intended to keep it that way. After scanning the room for any traces of supernatural evidence, she turned off the lights on her way out the door. She shouldn't have expected either of the guys to take her up on her offer of grabbing a drink. Anyone who knew about her powers, which meant virtually all supes, steered a wide berth around her. With her connection to the dead and her ability to command them, everyone assumed she lived with one foot on Earth and one in the underworld. In reality, she'd never been to the underworld and had no plans to visit the place until her own soul was summoned to whatever realm of the dead her deeds in life earned her. Seeing and talking to ghosts didn't bother most supes, but her ability to call people back from across the bridge and to reanimate corpses creeped everyone out. Well, almost everyone. Demons didn't mind her abilities, but most of them were despicable. And vampires. She was like supernatural catnip to the bloodsuckers. Her power to command the dead was a turn-on to them for some strange reason. Probably because their own souls were so loosely attached to their undead bodies that they were dying to be set free. And her magic had her itching to help them along. More than one vamp had turned into a stalker when she tried to be friends, so now she stayed as far away as possible to avoid the unnatural attraction. And then there was Asher. She thought he, of all people, would be able to accept her. But nope. The moment their friendship got the teeniest bit romantic, he dropped her like a lava rock from the bowels of hell and never spoke to her again. Was it too much to ask for someone, anyone, soup, human? She didn't care. To accept her, morbid abilities and all. Most women her age were getting married and starting families, something it seemed Jasmine would never get to do. She smiled sadly. She and Asher could have made some beautiful babies together. But it didn't matter. He'd treated their friendship like he'd treated souls, tossing it into a pit and never looking back. Who did that to people? A dick, that's who. She tugged the door shut and spun around, gasping as she stepped right through the dead guy's ghost. The frigid spirit ripped through her torso, clawing at her skin with icy fingers until she jumped out of the way. That's what it felt like anyway. Really, the ghost was just as shocked as she was. He looked at her quizzically, gripping his arms as if checking that everything was still in place. Jasmine shook off the chilling sensation and adjusted the purse strap on her shoulder. Still can't find the light, huh? No one can. We don't know what to do. We? So you found some other spirits? That's a good thing. Y'all can hang out together until it's time to go. As she continued down the hall toward the building exit, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and groaned at the screen. A text from her sister read, "Where the hell are you, Jazz? Don't make me endure this alone." Crap, that was tonight. She'd completely forgotten about her cousin's bachelorette party. Ugh, even a spoiled brat like Raina can find love. She typed her response. "Sorry, tell her I had to work late. On my way." Then she shoved the phone in her pocket. The human side of her family, her mom's side, wasn't in the know about soups and thought Jasmine and her sister Ella were simply psychics. More like weirdos. She couldn't exactly tell them she was busy raising the dead. The ghost dude floated by her side. "There's something wrong. We're all stuck here." Stuck? Jasmine paused, and the spirit hovered next to her, so close his death chill seeped into her arm. Fun fact, necromancers could communicate with the dead much more efficiently than mediums, but there was a reason they preferred to reanimate corpses rather than deal with the spirits directly. If she spent too long with a ghost in close proximity, it could drain her energy, increasing its own strength while sucking the life out of her. Spend too long with too many of them, and she'd become a ghost herself, dead as an antique door knocker. Gotta love that kind of irony, right? The weakness was kept in strict confidence among the necromancers. They couldn't let the mediums think they were better than them. Necromancers were way more powerful than any run-of-the-mill psychic. But great strength was always balanced by great weakness. It was the natural order of things. Like vampires turning to barbecue in the sun. "There's no light to go to. Everyone says the door is locked." The dead dude reached for her, and she jumped backward like a werewolf peeing on an electric fence. "Whoa, back up, buddy. No touching." She raised her hands and waited for the ghost to float away. "First off, what's your name again? Camden? Carter?" She'd looked him up when Trace requested her services, but she tried not to get too attached to the dead. Names were personal, so she shoved them out of her mind as soon as she was done with her work. It's Cameron. Cameron, right. Can I call you Cam? She didn't wait for his response. Well, what the hell are you talking about, Cam? The door is never locked. You either can't find it or you aren't meant to go through it yet. Where was the damn Reaper when she needed him? Ever since the incident, Asher seemed to have a knack for reaping the soul she required and leaving the annoying clingers behind to torture her. I swear it's locked. Please, can you help? She rubbed at the goosebumps on her arms. I don't know anything about a door. I imagine the line between the world of the dead and here is a bridge, and it's always open for business. Sadness filled Cameron's eyes, and the poor guy looked so pathetic she actually felt sorry for him. It wasn't her job to help spirits pass on, but... Sighing, she shook her head. She was probably going to regret this. Okay, I'll talk to the Reaper for you and see if he knows what's up with your door, but you've got to keep your distance. You keep sucking my warmth away and the deal's off. Got it? He nodded. Good. Now make yourself scarce. I'll call you when I talk to him. She passed through the door to the reception area, and thankfully Cameron didn't follow. After she signed out and said goodbye to the front desk clerk, she leaned a hip against the release bar and pushed open the front door. Jasmine stopped dead in her tracks. Well, not really dead. She was alive and kicking, but the swarm of ghosts waiting for her in the parking lot froze her to her spot. There had to be at least 30 spirits hovering around the morgue, and all their gazes were trained on her. She swallowed hard. This was her necromancer's nightmare.